Hello, welcome back, and if you're new here, my name is Becca and today I have my favourite books of 2017. First of all, I'd like to wish you all a happy new year and I hope you all had a lovely New Year's Eve and you're not too hungover. In 2017, I actually read a lot of great books, so this list is a little bit long. I have 10 books that I would say are the best of the year, and I also have 5 honorary mentions, so let's just get straight into it. So starting with my honorary mentions, the first one is Emma in the Night by Wendy Walker. I only gave this book 3 stars, but it was the first thriller that I ever read and I absolutely loved it. I flew all the way through it. I was just so compelled to read on. The only thing that made me give it 3 stars instead of 4 was that I wasn't satisfied with the ending. But I'm so glad that I read it because now I really want to read more thrillers and it's opened up a whole new genre of possibilities. My next honorary mention is All the Ugly and Wonderful Things by Bryn Greenwood, which I gave 4 stars. I thought this book was really interesting. You've heard me and probably a lot of people talk about it before, and it is the story of an 8-year-old girl who falls in love with the 23-year-old man, and it's about their sort of paedophilic relationship throughout the years. I thought it was super interesting and something that I have never read about before and would never normally read, and for that reason it makes this list of honorary mentions. Then we have Invictus by Ryan Gordon. I also gave this 4 stars and received an ARC from NetGalley. I don't read a lot of sci-fi, and this is about a set of time travelers, and I actually really enjoyed it. It's made me want to read more sci-fi, which is why I think it deserves to be here, because once again it's opened up a new genre that I don't usually read. Then we have Genuine Fraud by E. Lockhart. Gave this 4 stars. Really liked it. Flew through it in a couple of days. Thought it was really interesting. This one is about 2 girls and there is a mystery surrounding them. Not going to say too much because it's best to go into E. Lockhart's books not knowing much at all, but I would definitely recommend that you check it out. And then the last honorary mention is They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. Those of you who know me know that I don't read a lot of contemporary. This is the first of Adam Silvera's books that I've read. I really enjoyed it. I really want to read more, especially History Is All You Left Me. And while it didn't make my list of favourites, I still thought it was really good and was impressed by it, so I thought I would mention it here. So before we get started into my actual top 10 of the year, I would like you all, if you want to put a comment below with what you think was my favourite book of the year, because I can guarantee that if you guys have watched my channel before, you think my favourite book of the year is what I think my favourite book of the year is, but whether or not it actually came in at number 1, we'll have to wait and see. Okay, so now that you have done that, let's move into my top 10, starting of course at number 10, which is The Fate of the Tearling by Erica Johansson. This comes in at number 10 because I think it was the first book of the year that I read, so I don't remember that much about it anymore, but I do remember that I really liked this series as a whole. It has a twist, I'm gonna say. You start off in a medieval world and there's flashbacks, flash forwards to another world, and then the worlds are intertwined but not in a way that you would immediately think. A lot of people don't like the ending of this book and I completely understand why, because I wasn't happy with it either. But then when you think about it, it's the only right ending that the series could have had. If it had ended another way, it wouldn't have been a good resolution of the conflict in the book. For those of you that haven't read the Tearling series, it is about a girl called Kelsey, who is the daughter of the Queen, and when she is old enough, she's taken to sort of reclaim her throne, and she finds out that her country is offering tributes of slaves to another country, and she stops that straight away, which starts a war between the 2 kingdoms. She also has a necklace where there is a mystery surrounding it, and to find a solution to the war, which as her country are outnumbered and underskilled and under-resourced, she has to sort of find another way. And not only is it about that, it is about her growing up and sort of leaving behind her fears and her childhood insecurities to do what's best for her country. At number 9, which is the only book on this list that I don't own, is Depression and Other Magic Tricks by Sabrina Bernheim, which is a collection of poetry / short stories. This is by the girl who went viral for her spoken word piece called How to Explain Depression to My Mother or something like that. I just thought that the poetry was beautiful. There's a lot of different styles. There's blackout poetry, there's without punctuation, and there's shorter poetry. But I thought it was really, really good. And as somebody who doesn't normally read poetry, I think that this was really, really well done. There's a lot of emotion and pain in there, and that definitely comes across in the poetry. Any fans of modern poetry, I would recommend that you read this. The reason I don't have a copy is because it's either out of stock or out of publication everywhere. You might be able to get it in the US, but I know in the UK it's pretty much impossible to find. But for fans of poetry, I would really recommend this one. At number 8, we have Turtles All the Way Down by John Green, which I thought was absolutely amazing. I know that people have been saying that they didn't like the plot and it was too out there, but I really enjoyed that. Or should I say it didn't bother me, because I read a lot of fantasy, so when I read a book I don't really think about how realistic the plot is. There's also great OCD and anxiety rep in this, which I found to be really accurate based on what I've sort of witnessed in somebody else I know that has anxiety. So I thought that was really realistic and accurate and powerful. And this is also an Own Voices book because John Green also suffers with OCD. I'm not sure about anxiety, but I would assume so. True to John Green's nature, all the characters in this book talk like they're in a James Dean film, but that's also something I really enjoy and come to expect from John Green's book. And yeah, if you were sort of unsure about whether to read this, I would recommend it. Although, like I said, people have said that the plot is unrealistic, so take from that what you will. At number 7, we have The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas, which was making the rounds through summer. This is actually the first audiobook I've ever listened to, and also the first book I read because of BookTube, I think just before I made my first video. This is about the Black Lives Matter movement, and it follows our main character, Star Carter, who witnesses her best friend shot while unarmed by a police officer, and it's sort of how she moves past that and tries to recover when she goes to a private school full of white kids who she doesn't feel she can talk to them about it, because she tries not to mix her life at a fancy private school and her life living in the ghetto. And it was just really powerful. It was really emotional. I teared up a couple of times, but I'm not a book crier, so like that's a lot for me. And I think it's really powerful and everybody should read it. I think it makes a great statement and it's an important book to read. At number 6, we have The Windup Burn Chronicle by Haruki Murakami. I'm not sure how to classify this into a genre. I would say maybe magical realism. This is about a Japanese man who has a cat and the cat goes missing, and then the rest of the book is really out there and unrelated to the cat going missing, aside from the fact that other things start to happen after the cat goes missing. I really enjoyed this, but I can't explain why. I think it's thought-provoking. It makes you question a lot of things that are happening in the book, and even when you get to the end you're not sure what has actually happened, how it has happened, and it just leaves everything unanswered and you just think about it for ages. And this is the only Murakami book that I've read, but I'm really intrigued to read some more, especially 1Q84. I'm super interested in that and I have been for a while. So yeah, there's not a lot I can say about this, but I really enjoyed it, gave it 5 stars and really loved it. In at number 5, we have King's Cage by Victoria Aveyard, which is the 3rd book in the Red Queen series and also one of my most anticipated releases for 2017. I gave this 5 stars. For those of you that have read Red Queen and Glass Sword and, like me, didn't like Glass Sword, King's Cage is more in the spirit of Red Queen. It has a mix of what happens in Red Queen and Glass Sword, so you have a mix of political intrigue and that sort of side of it, with some military strategy in, whereas I found that Glass Sword was too action-based and military-based and left a lot of the political intrigue behind. It was sort of like Mockingjay, where they sort of infiltrate the capital. That's how I felt about Glass Sword, but this sort of brings it back, furthers the plot, makes things so much more interesting, and I have a lot of hope for the last book in this series now, whereas I was wondering whether Red Queen I would really like and the rest of the series would go downhill, but it's picked back up and I'm super excited to read Warstorm. For those of you who don't know, Red Queen is about a world that's split by the colour of your blood. So you have red bloods, which are like normal people, and silver bloods, who are like super powered. And one of the red bloods, Mer Barrow, notices in a very public way that she has powers, and then she's sort of taken into the silver world where they try and cover up that she has red blood until they can figure out what it means. And there's a rebellion uprising from the reds and it all just goes from there. Coming in at number 4, we have The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon, but as the full series, not just the first book. So I only have The Song Rising in hardback, but I did read the Mime Order as well, which is the second book. So when you go into The Bone Season, there's a lot of jargon for you to get around first. It's essentially based in Seven Dials in London, which is a real place, but I don't think it's called Seven Dials. It's about psychics, and there's 7 different orders of psychic, from sort of like tarot readers and like near the bottom right up until people who can move things with their mind and things like that. And you follow Paige Mahoney, who is one of the top orders in Scion, London, which is a place where it is illegal to be psychic. In the first couple of chapters, she gets captured and taken somewhere else, where she begins to realise that the life she's lived is a lie. I read the entire series and I love them all. The reason that the full series is on at number 4 is because I can't remember enough about each individual book to decide which one I like the best. But if you like sci-fi and fantasy, I would recommend reading this. Just be aware when you go into it that until you get to grips with the terminology, it will be quite difficult for you to follow what's going on. But aside from that, I think it's great. It has a really rich, deep fantasy world, and I think the plot has a lot of promise. The series is going to be 7 books long, so I'm hoping it doesn't fall flat somewhere along the way. But so far, from what I've read of the first 3 books, this is a really great series. So I would like you all to refer to your predictions of what's going to come in at number 1 in this list as we go into the top 3. And at number 3, we have A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J Maas. Yes, I know, it's coming at number 3. And for those of you who've been watching my channel for a couple of months, if this came in at number 3, I'm sure you know what comes in at number 1 and 2. But this only came in at number 3 because something else that I read this year has blown my mind completely. I accept what people are saying about this, that it isn't the best book, and I will always love it and always cherish this series because it is my absolute favourite series. But as for this book, I understand the problems that people have with it, but I don't necessarily agree with them. I did really love this. I gave it 5 stars. Obviously it's number 3, so it is one of the best things I've ever read. Ever. I wasn't happy with the conclusion, but I never would have been because of how invested I am in this series. But obviously I love Rhysand, I love Cassian, I love Asriel, I love Cassian and Nesta together, and I thought everything about this was great. I'm not going to tell you what this series is about because you all already know, of course, and you all know it's my absolute favourite series. Really sad that this is number 3. And I was going to put it at number 1 just to be predictable, but I couldn't because it's not true. Number 3, I didn't really have any problems with it. It wasn't as good as it could have been. I'm still happy with how it was and I'm happy with how it ended, but it could have been better, and that's why it's number 3. I think that's what I'm trying to say. That's the reason it's number 3, because although it was amazing and it blew my mind, it could have been better, and so it wasn't quite my favourite book of the year. Okay, so when you see number 2, I'm sure you're going to know what number 1 is. And number 2 is God's Grave by J. Kristoff. I'm going to put this down and tell you what number 1 is, and then I'll discuss God's Grave, because of course you all saw it coming when Akawar came in at 3. Number 1 is Nevernight by J. Kristoff. So Nevernight I absolutely adored. I compared it to first book Throne of Glass and the feeling I had when reading that, and when the Death Eaters are in control of Hogwarts, because that's sort of the vibe I got from it. You have this sort of dark school for assassins where all of the like masters, like the Dumbledore and McGonagall, are like trained killers. So it gave me that like dark Harry Potter vibe. I absolutely love Mia. I love how coarse and foul she is. I love all the gore. I love how conflicted she is. She's very flawed. She has this main goal, but she also realises that she has some humanity in her as well. And there's also the mystery of why has shadow demons and things. And it was just phenomenal. I loved the writing style. The first page of this book is the best first page of any book I've ever read. And I think J. Kristoff is just a master with words. Read Nevernight. It's really, really amazing. And I really liked it a lot. So moving on to why God's Grave came in at number 2. It's because I didn't like the setting of this book as much as I like the setting of Nevernight. Without going too much into spoilers, in Nevernight, she sort of moves on to a different place after the happenings in Nevernight. Obviously from God's Grave and Etreia, you get a sense of it being Italy/Rome, and there's a lot of Roman influences in there. You can tell with the language of the world. And in this one, it's centered around gladiators, and I didn't enjoy that setting as much as I enjoyed the setting of the first book, and that's why this is in second place, not first. Still absolutely loved it. Finished it about a week ago, and the ending absolutely blew my mind. Like, so much was revealed and I was like, what is going on? And yeah, these two books come in at 1 and 2 on my list. Absolutely phenomenal. Could not recommend enough. If you like high fantasy, and if you're somebody who's struggling to find a way to move from YA to adult, I would highly recommend Nevernight. Obviously, if you're younger, I wouldn't recommend it because there's a lot of swearing and gore and sexual content. But if you're like me and you're in your almost mid-20s and you've sort of always read YA and you like the sentiment of YA but don't know how to find a place in adult literature, I would go for Nevernight. Amazing. I can't say how good it is enough. Don't really have any fault with it. Read these books and worship J. Kristoff like I now do. So that's it for my best books of 2017. If you made a prediction of what my best book was down below, please follow that up with another comment and let me know what your favourite book was, because I'm about a month behind watching BookTube right now because of drama at the beginning of the month, but I am slowly catching up, and I'm so excited to get into everybody's best books of 2017 to add some new recommendations to my Goodreads list. Let me know how you all did in 2017 reading and what you loved, what you hated, and just generally talk to me. If you like this video, then please don't forget to like it and subscribe if you want to. And if you head into the description box, you can find a link to my Goodreads, my Instagram and my Twitter if you'd like to be my friend anywhere outside of YouTube. But that's everything from me today. I hope you have a lovely 2018 and I'll see you with another video soon. Bye!